No new knowledge can be extracted from my telling. This confession has meant nothing.
This confession has meant nothing. That's how American Psycho ends. Patrick Bateman sits in a bar after confessing multiple murders. He describes them clearly to his lawyer. He expects something: shock, fear, legal consequences that would confirm that reality still functions. But instead, his lawyer considers him a lunatic, says he had dinner with Paul Allen, one of the supposed victims, in London. He even calls Bateman by the wrong name. This matters because confession normally has weight. In moral and social systems, admitting guilt triggers a reaction. That's how accountability works. But here, it doesn't. So the film immediately raises a deeper question. Either Bateman didn't kill anyone, or he did, but the world doesn't care. In both of the cases, something fundamental is broken. Early in the film, Bateman says, "There is an idea of Bateman, but there is no real me." We should take that seriously. The film opens with his morning routine. He describes every skincare product he's using in detail, his grooming accessories. If we look throughout the film, there is something missing: convictions, personal history, beliefs, and all such things that makes up a human. Why does that matter? Because identity can be built in two ways: from internal commitment, what you believe, what you value, or from external perception, how you appear, how you rank. Bateman builds himself entirely from the second. The business card scene proves it. When Paul Allen presents a slightly superior card, Bateman visibly panics. His hands tremble, he sweats. Why would paper destabilize someone? Because in his world, status equals identity. And here, I think Nietzsche becomes relevant. Nietzsche argued that when people stop grounding themselves in self created values, they begin measuring themselves through comparison. Instead of asking, "What do I stand for?" they ask, "How am I better? How am I superior?" And I have noticed one thing: Bateman never expresses what he stands for. He reacts to hierarchy. That's why a better font feels existential. If your identity depends on ranking, you are never secure. Now let's talk about murders. The murder of Paul Allen seems real and grounded. But after that, events become unstable. The ATM tells him to feed a stray cat. The police car explodes in a way that it feels exaggerated. Bodies vanish from the apartment, and his lawyer insists that Paul Allen is alive. These contradictions matter. Bateman lives in constant comparison. Paul Allen has the better card. Other men outrank him. His whole identity depends upon being superior. Friedrich Nietzsche describes resentment as a psychological reaction where someone who feels inferior tries to fill that gap with imagination of power and superiority. And I think Bateman fits here perfectly. If he cannot dominate socially, he can dominate in his fantasies. Notice who his supposed victims are: a more successful rival, a woman, the homeless, easy targets beneath him socially. Each one of them reflects insecurity. As his sense of inferiority deepens, the violence becomes more exaggerated, less realistic, and more detached from the consequence. That suggests not growing control but weakening stability. To understand what's strange about Bateman, compare him to another fictional murder. In Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, the character Raskolnikov kills someone thinking himself intellectually superior, but afterward, guilt destroys him. He becomes paranoid, sick, psychologically unstable. Why is that relevant? Because Dostoevsky's argument was that moral law operates internally. Even if society doesn't punish you, your conscience will. But Bateman doesn't show that collapse. Whether the murders were real or imagined, he almost feels no sustained guilt. That absence is philosophically important. It suggests not rebellion against morality, but erosion of it. Dostoevsky famously wrote, "If God doesn't exist, everything is permitted." The point wasn't theological alone. Camus defined absurd as the tension between our need for meaning and universe's indifference. Bateman confronts indifference repeatedly. No one listens carefully, people confuse identities constantly, even confessions produce nothing. Why bring up Camus? Because Camus argued when bring up with absurdity, you have two options. Either you revolt or you despair. Revolt means choosing meaning deliberately despite the silence. But Bateman does neither of them. That's where Nietzsche's concept of passive nihilism becomes important. Passive nihilism is nothing sort of a dramatic concept. It's basically when life continues normally but nothing has depth. Bateman succeeds financially. He maintains his body. He attends dinners. But if you look deeply, nowhere in the film, not in a single scene, he feels real. And he himself admitted this in the beginning of the film. That's why the ending feels cold instead of explosive. The horror isn't that he kills, it's that he lives in a world where killing, imagined or real, fails to disrupt anything. He says there is an idea of Patrick Bateman, but there is no me. This film shows up a man constructed entirely from surface, and without internal grounding, nothing can land. When he says, "This confession has meant nothing," I don't think it's dramatic. I think it's consistent. That consistency is what makes it unsettling. Because the final question isn't about him, it's about the structure. If identity is built on appearance, if values is built on comparison, if meaning is never chosen deliberately, then eventually nothing means anything.